Good afternoon and welcome to H360 Live. My name is Dave Duplay and alongside of me is my colleague Cortland Long. We have a very exciting show for you today. A very inspirational guy is going to be joining us on set. His name is Mark Speckhart, and Mark is an esophageal cancer survivor. He's got an unbelievable story that he's going to share with us, and now he's giving back as a patient advocate. We're going to learn all about what it means to be a patient advocate and how Mark is now working with patients who are newly diagnosed with esophageal cancer. So very exciting show. You're not going to want to miss this. He's going to be here in about 5 minutes. But first, as always, we're going to take you through a health tip and an interesting article. In Cortland, we've got an interesting article called The 4 Mistakes We All Make When Trying to Cheer Up a Friend. Mm-hmm. And we've all been there. A friend comes to us and says, I've got this thing going on in my life. And they tell us about it. And we sit there, and one of 2 things happen as we're thinking about what they're saying. One is we say, it's not really that big of a deal. Pick yourself up by the bootstraps. This too shall pass. And, let's move on with life. And so we blurt something like that out. And it probably isn't the best thing to say. Or, as our friend is sharing this moment in their life with us, in the back of our mind we're thinking to ourselves, man, this is a real game changer. And I'm not really sure how this person's going to come through on the other end given this situation. So there's a couple of things. There's 4 mistakes that people make when being told something. And so what I want to find out is what are those mistakes and how can we ensure that we minimize the damage when making these mistakes?
Yeah, so these mistakes, we all do them, but they're also very easy to sidestep. So the first one, we call it being Mr. or Mrs. Brightside, where you hear your friend and you say, oh, not really a big deal, it's fine, this leads to better opportunity. So we reframe these setbacks in a positive light, which actually makes our friend feel invalidated, unheard, and often misunderstood. So a good way to get past this is to, listen to your friend. Don't try to give them that encouraging word, but listen to the emotional content of what they're saying. And rather than saying, oh, well, keep your chin up, just keep listening to them and be there for them.
So it's all really about listening and really taking it in and thinking about what it is they're saying, but paying close attention.
Exactly, yeah. And the second one is offering unsolicited advice. So, we all think we have the best recommendations for what is the best course of action for our friend, but often this helps our friend, they're less likely to want to hang out with us when we give them that advice, and often it will prompt them to do the opposite of what we think is best. Usually our friends already know, what they're going to do or what's going to be best for them. So a good way to not do this mistake is to, if someone doesn't ask for advice, don't give it. Yeah. Just keep that in your mind and continue to ask them questions about their experience so they feel, qualified and listened to.
Yeah, so again, it's listening, right?
Exactly, listening. Yep. It sounds so easy, right?
Yep. Open the ears and close the mouth.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So the third one is writing a referral, and this one is quite difficult. Often we are not experienced and we're not mental professionals. We're not trained, so it can be very difficult to hear your friend go through something so hard that you don't have the experience to help them with. So you want to say immediately, well, you should speak to a professional. But instead, be compassionate, broach that topic gently, and don't just write them off because that's going to make them feel pretty negative.
Yeah. Most people think they're an armchair therapist, and they're really not, and it does more damage than it does good, I think.
Yeah. And so the last one is spilling your own guts. Best friends share everything, share stories, they want to compare, they want to help your friend feel not quite so alone. But actually, this still helps your friend feel invalidated. So you can still share your own experience, but bring it back to your friend. Bring it back to what they're talking about and ask them questions about it. Say something like, oh, well, I went through a similar experience and it made me feel like this. Are you feeling the same way? That's a really good trick.
So after it's all said and done, we've got these 4 mistakes. What's the real takeaway here?
So the takeaway is to listen. Listen, ask questions, be there for your friend.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for that. Good advice.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, every week we go through a health tip, and I hear this week we have some strange but true health tips.
Yeah, we've gotten away from the summer health tips, and I'm going to share 4 that are a little strange, but true, kind of counterintuitive when you hear them, right? And so the first one is drink coffee before a nap. And you say, that really doesn't make sense. Drink coffee before a nap. But there's been a study in Japan that if you drink 1 or 2 cups of coffee before what they consider to be a power nap, which is a 20-minute nap, you wake up and there's a molecule in your brain called adenosine, and that is cleared of the brain. And that kicks in at about the same time the caffeine is kicking in after you've had the 2 cups of coffee.
All right.
So you wake up and you're totally energized, invigorated after this 20-minute power nap. So, and it doesn't make sense, right? Drink coffee before a nap.
Yeah.
Just really doesn't make sense.
Right, I would not think that.
No, but it works. It works. You should give it a try sometime.
I will.
And yeah, report back to us. We'd love to hear what happened. This next one, and here's, Mom, I love you if you're watching. This tip is, for healthy teeth, don't brush after eating. And that really doesn't make sense. When I was a kid growing up, boy, you left the dinner table and it was right to the bathroom and brushing of the teeth. But here's what happens, especially if you're eating something acidic, like a tomato or like a piece of fruit, a citrus, or drinking soda. What happens is that citrus will soften the enamel on your teeth.
Okay.
It's the surface enamel. And so then you're eating and it softens the enamel, and then you go to brush, and what you're doing is actually eliminating some of the enamel off your teeth. So it's really recommended to wait 30 to 60 minutes after you eat, especially, again, if you're eating tomatoes or something citrus, 30 to 60 minutes after you eat to brush your teeth. And that way, it gives the enamel just a little longer to, get back to its natural state and become solid again. So you're not ruining the enamel on your teeth.
Yeah. Can you get enamel back once you've brushed it off?
That's a good question. I think you can. I think it's a procedure that's done in the dentist office.
Oh, okay.
And of course, there's all kinds of toothpaste out now, right, to protect the enamel, so which are highly recommended by the American Dental Association.
Great.
So, yeah. So the next one is to wear a smaller size, gain weight. Muscle weight, that is.
Okay.
Right, muscle weight. I want to be clear, it's muscle weight. So if you have 2 people and they weigh 150 pounds and one has a weightlifting regimen in their workout, they're probably going to wear a size or 2 smaller pant than their counterpart who weighs the exact same but doesn't incorporate weightlifting into their workout routine.
That's really interesting.
So,
why is that?
Yeah, because a pound of fat and a pound of muscle, although they weigh the same, the muscle is in fact smaller in dimension.
Oh, okay.
Right? So, I think it's a two-fold story here. It's watching your calories, and it's also incorporating a weightlifting regimen into your overall health routine. And so to wear a smaller size, gain weight.
Okay.
Yeah. And the last one we have, kind of along that line as well, to eat less, eat more.
Very interesting, too.
To eat less, eat more. So you get hungry during the day and you think, man, I'll just go and I'll have a little handful of pretzels or something like that, or a cookie. High in carbs, well, what's happening is it's really fluctuating your blood sugar. Right? And so you eat that, and although you're satisfied for the time being, because it's primarily carbohydrates, you're going to be hungry again very soon. So it's recommended to eat protein. Eat a little peanut butter on an apple slice, for example, or a handful of peanuts. And so you're eating protein. It's going to fill you up just the same, but you're going to stay fuller longer, right?
Yeah.
And even though there's going to be more calories in that peanut butter and that apple, or that handful of peanuts, than there might be in a granola-type bar or something that's high in carbohydrate. It has more calories, more calorie per serving. You're actually going to eat less because you're going to stay fuller longer from eating the high protein versus the high carbohydrate.
Wow, those
So,
are great tips.
Yeah. So again, eat less to eat more, right? And so the 4 that we talked about were drink coffee to take a better nap. For a healthy teeth, don't brush right after eating. To wear a smaller size, gain weight. And last but not least, to eat less, eat more. So it all comes around.
Yeah, it does.
Fantastic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are strange but true. And next week we're going to share 4 more strange but true health tips. I have a whole bunch of them.
Oh, I can't wait to hear them.
Yeah, no, they're fantastic. Well, look, without any further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome into the studio Mark Speckhart. As I mentioned, Mark is an esophageal cancer survivor.
Pleasure. Good
Nice
seeing
to
you.
meet you.
David.
Mark, please
Thank
have
you.
a seat.
Thank you. Thank you for
So,
having
Mark,
me.
you look phenomenal. It's a hot summer day in New York City here,
Yeah.
and you look great. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So I got to ask a couple questions here. So esophageal cancer. No cancer is a pleasant cancer. They're all ugly and hideous, and we've got to do something to find cures for all cancers. But a couple of interesting points on esophageal cancer. An estimated number of people diagnosed with esophageal cancer in 2014, last year, was 18,170. It's diagnosed. The estimated number of people who died from esophageal cancer in that same year was 15,450. So it's nasty. It's a tough cancer to get through.
Yes.
You've got an unbelievable story, your journey with your cancer, and now giving back as a patient advocate. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But Mark, when you were diagnosed in your 40s,
Early 40s, 42 years old.
or early 40s, you look fit right
Yep.
now. You're tan. You look great. I would imagine you were working out. I know you were traveling all over the world with
Yep.
your job.
Yep.
What was the point where you said something in my body is not right? There's something going on, and I've got to get this checked out.
I was actually in Vietnam on a business trip, and I felt I was having something to eat, and I felt something just wasn't right, and I wasn't sure what it was. So I kind of pushed it off a little bit, and then I returned home, and I talked to my wife Danielle, and I said, Danielle, something's doesn't seem right. I want to go to the doctors. I want to find out about getting a scope. So I went to my general practitioner, and he goes, you know what, Mark, you're probably allergic to something that you had over there. I said, you know what, Doc, please, let me just do the scope. And he goes, okay. So we hooked up, and I went and had the scope done. And at that point, waking up in recovery, my doctor said to me, he goes, we found something down there. And we did a biopsy, and come back in a couple days and we'll have a talk.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know what it is that they found. So 2 days later, I went down back to the office and sat with him, and he sat down with me. I was by myself, and he looked at me and he goes, you have cancer. And
You're by yourself.
I'm by myself, and here I am. I'm a father of 3. My wife and I have been together since we were 16, and my life just passed before me. I just didn't know. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I guess I don't know, So he goes, "Well, listen, we're going to do further tests, and we're going to come back here in a day. We'll do CAT scans and we'll do all that. That's what we need to do." I said, "Okay." So I proceeded to go back to my car, completely dazed. Jumped into my car, and as soon as I turned on the ignition, the check engine light comes on.
No way.
Yeah, and I was like, what is going on here? So I got on the phone, I called my wife, and I said, I have some bad news. And she goes, what? She goes, I said, I have cancer. And I heard the phone drop. So I came home, and we just said, okay, we got to figure this out, come up with a plan, talk to my parents, talk to my in-laws, talk to her, talk to my best friends. And from there, we went back and had scans later, and came back that it had not spread. We had good news, so we actually hugged and said, out of a diagnosis of having cancer, it did not spread.
Yeah.
and they proceeded to want to put me on some sort of regimen. And then I said, guys, wait a minute, no disrespect, but I really want to go to a place that sees this 60, 100 times a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at that point, that's when I went into New York and went to Sloan Kettering.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit more about having that conversation with your friends and family?
Well, it's one that you don't want to ever have. You know, when you hear the word cancer, you think of a death sentence. You know, you think of something, you know, now what? You know, you think my hair's going to fall out of chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. You don't know what's going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. But, you know, to have that conversation, it was very hard. It was very difficult in the beginning, but it was amazing how your family and you know, my wife, Danielle, my rock. Without her, I would be here. So, it was difficult. But we decided, thank you. We decided that our children were young and that we were not going to tell them. Once we found out a plan, we had to get a plan. And at that point, that's when we went to Sloan and met my doctor, Nabil Risk. Amazing, amazing man. And he just said, hey, listen, I know what you got. I know what we're going to do. And this is the plan.
So what was the plan? You're sitting there, and do you have options at this point? Let me ask you, what stage were you diagnosed at?
I was originally staged at stage 1.
Okay.
But when reality came out, I was stage 3.
Wow. Okay.
When I went to New York.
Yeah.
They finally, you know, these guys know what they're doing, these women, and they just said, hey, went through the PET scans, went through everything. You're stage 3, and the protocol is this. The protocol is going to be chemotherapy, then it's going to be radiation and chemotherapy, and then you're going to be off for 6 weeks. And then you're going to have surgery.
So you're going to go through chemo and radiation at a point, and your body is going to be, I would take it, a little rundown from the chemo first, and then they're going to give you a double dose, right?
Yep.
Double dose, radiation and chemo for 6 weeks?
Well, I did a total of 11 chemotherapies. I did them every Tuesday. So I started with my chemotherapy. I waited 2 weeks, and we realized that the chemotherapy was working and that my tumor had shrunk by 1/3. So the oncologist said, okay, hey, listen, this is great news. We don't have to change. Let's stick with what we're doing. Now you got to start radiation. So then we did chemo. Every Tuesday I did chemo, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I had to do radiation for 28 days straight. Weekends off.
What's the radiation process like? What happens? You go into a room, what do they do?
Yeah, well, at Sloan Kettering, what they had done for me was that I had a thing called gating done. And gating was where they installed or implanted a gold, almost like the size of a grain of rice, into the tumor. And what that was created was, it almost was like a waypoint on a GPS. And the radiation machines today are so exact, they can actually pinpoint exactly where they want to hit you. Years ago, it was far different, where they would actually radiate organs that weren't even affected at all. Now they were able to literally laser beam onto you. And so I would go in, and I'd have a breathing exercise that I had to go through. And every day when I would go in, they would set up the machine, and I'd start my breathing exercise. And if my breathing got out of sequence, the machine would shut off. So it wouldn't hit organs that were not affected or were healthy. So it really just pinpointed on that. And so I did that for 28 days, and then every Tuesday I would have a double dose. So I'd have chemo, and then I'd have radiation.
So that radiation was all triggered off that little...
That
little gold beacon that they've implanted.
And so
in the
as
tumor.
the tumor shrunk, every 5 days they would put me up on the table again, and then basically put the resync button on the radiation machine, and it would then rehone, because as the tumor got smaller, they wouldn't want to radiate outside. So they had these certain mathematical algorithms that they came up with to be able to focus specifically on my targeted spot.
Wow.
Did you have friends and family coming with you for treatment? Did they
well, most days it was interesting. Most days I would drive in by myself to have radiation. Knock on wood, for me, I was so fortunate to not have a lot of the things that they potentially said could have happened to me.
Like what?
Burning esophagus, having to get on pain medication because I was unable to swallow, blistering skin from the radiation, nausea, fatigue, all of these things.
And all those symptoms, those side effects, you did not experience?
I didn't get them. I credit so much to my wife, my friends, my brothers. They helped me with my nutrition. I juiced every day. I drank a quart of kale juice every day that I made myself. I had friends that got me on some type of cellulite protein shakes that I was taking. And I was also seeing my uncle, who was an oncologist as well, who was a homeopath physician. And he had given me some medications, which was, an alternative natural medications that I believe completely helped me out during this whole ordeal.
Oh, he was here in New York as well?
No, he lives in Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay.
And I would go down every couple weeks to go down and get tested with him. And a lot of it was state of mind too. Is my doctors were so great. Exercise, walk, stay positive, all of these things. And of course, having your friends, your confidants, to hear you. They know when you're down. The way chemotherapy works is that after you have chemo, the first couple of days you're pretty high. You're not fatigued, but as it wears down, you tend to start getting into that fatigue where you're sleeping and you're feeling lousy, and then once you get over that peak again, where you start feeling good again, you got to go right through it again.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of a roller coaster, but once you conditioned your brain, I was listening to, I don't know if people listen to TED Talks, but there was a gentleman on there. His name was Andrew Solomon, and he was unbelievable. He did a lecture about identifying. He identified certain things, identifying it with a disease or something that's with you. And I finally, after I listened to his talk, I identified myself with, hey, I got cancer, and you know what? I'm going to beat this thing, and I'm gonna some way, somehow, I'm going to give back. And I don't know what it is at this point. I don't know what it is. But once I identified myself with this, it liberated me.
You almost have to come to grips and realize that this is it. And you're dealt this hand of cards.
Yeah.
And what you have in your hand is what you have in your hand. How you choose to play those cards seems to be at least the mental preparation, the acceptance of your cancer, and saying to yourself, you know what, I'm going to beat this. Other people have beat it. I'm going to beat it. This isn't going to get me.
Right.
So, Mark, now you're a patient advocate. Tell us, what does that mean? What's a patient advocate, and how did you get into that?
Well, on my last day in the hospital, I had a gentleman, Bart, came and visited with me, and we clicked. And he goes, and he handed me a book. He had started this esophageal foundation, where he ended up he was a survivor, and he dedicated, after he had left his professional life, into developing this foundation. So Bart came and spoke to me, and he goes, Mark, if you have any questions about anything, post-surgery, how you feel, call me. Just call me. And you know what? In a way, pride may have gotten in the way on me sometimes, and I thought that maybe, because I really didn't seek out any type of support, maybe because I had so much internal support from my family. But once I found out from a gentleman that had it, it was able to put because he identified himself with it.
Yeah.
I started to identify myself with it. So once I did that, then I was able to ask for help. And I started to feel so much more calm, more at ease. What I'm going through now is natural. And by it, and so it eased my mind. So as the year went by and I started to heal and get better, I talked to Bart, and he goes, you know what, you'd be great if you could share your story, what you went through, with other people. So he had put me in touch with Sloan Kettering over there. Her name was Jennifer Wang. And then Jennifer moved on, and I got Marisha. And Marisha has been a beacon of light for me. And she got me involved, and I mainly talk to patients now on the phone. I occasionally go on, sit on board, and do some certain things over there. But matter of fact, this morning, at 6 o'clock this morning, I got a text message from one of my patients who's having surgery today. And I'm like, it's all green lights, buddy. And when I said green lights is when I left Sloan Kettering with my brother and my wife, when I walked out after my surgery, I literally walked out of my doctor goes, put your clothes on, you're out of here. What about the wheelchair?
It's time for you to go. That's
you
it.
No wheelchair to the lobby? No, get out of here. And I walked right out. And it's right on York. And we had to go down the FDR. And when to jump home to go 78 back to New Jersey, and my brother and I jumped in the car, and he goes, you know, it's all green lights. I just tell you because from when I jumped in the car all the way to 78, we hit all green lights.
Huh. Amazing.
And it was amazing experience. And at that point, I said, "Oh my gosh, there's something that means something's good out of this."
Yeah.
And so, excuse me. It's so I got involved with Sloan, and that's what I do now. And it gives me a lot of satisfaction to help to walk the journey with these people, to know that they are at the best hospital. They are with the best team of people. And I'm saying there's great hospitals all over the United States. This was my world.
Right.
And my experience. And I had to just let them know that they're in a safe place.
Yeah. Well, Mark, you're doing fantastic work. What a journey. You're very inspirational. And we have a little something for you.
Okay.
So, Cortland?
So we have the Our Human Spirit Award for
Wow.
you.
Thank you.
This award is given to people who have undergone a chronic condition or caregiving for someone with a chronic condition.
Yeah.
And they're going above and beyond to make the world better. And
Thank you
obviously
very,
we think
very
you are,
proud.
and other people think you are as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
I appreciate it.
I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Well, before we end our show for this week and say goodbye, we have a belated birthday shout-out to give to Peggy Long. And Peggy is the mother of my friend, my colleague, and my co-host, Cortland, who sits to my left every week and does a fantastic job. So, Peggy, happy birthday. From the bottom of our hearts here at Healthy O360, we hope you have many, many more, and we hope you enjoyed your special day. Well, that's our show for this week. I'd like to thank our guest once again, Mark Speckhart, for coming into the studio and sharing his amazing story about his cancer journey with us. I'd like to thank the viewers and members at home for tuning in today. I'd like to thank, last but not least, our sponsors who make this all possible. Remember, all of our episodes can be viewed on demand at healthyo360.com. Healthy O360 can also be found on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. And please don't forget to use the hashtag #RealStories when posting. So on behalf, Cortland Long, and everyone here at Healthy O360, we hope you have a very pleasant afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are those solely of the Healthy O360 hosts and our guests for this broadcast. These views and opinions do not in any way reflect the views and opinions of our sponsors, advertisers, or other organizations on Healthy O360, including our community members.